I can remember wanting to look in this window every time we went out shopping. But to be truthful, the colored jars didn't mean a thing to me. They were just bright colors. I was a lot older when I made my decision.
I made my decision when I was a junior in high school, and our biology teacher took us to the science exposition at the San Francisco Medical Center.
This man helped me make up my mind. I worked for him my last 2 years in high school, and watching the ways in which he was able to help people made me want to study pharmacy. I was all set to be an accountant.
Maybe those colored jars did mean something to me, but not until I finished my freshman year at Berkeley. I was a chem major, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And one day I just decided to see if these people could help me. They did. Chemistry and the biological sciences showed up as my strong aptitudes, and I decided to apply to pharmacy school.
It began on a windy day in September. I learned later that all days are windy on Parnassus Hill. I was glad to see that there were other girls registering. And I was also glad to see that each of us was expected. The envelope had my name on it. From there on in, it was very businesslike and efficient. Fill out the forms, pay the money, and I'm a pharmacy student. It helped to run into Tom, who went to my high school. He's a junior now, and he told me not to worry. He'd made it. The hard way.
I sure did. Everybody says it's a tough schedule, but mine was worse. I didn't study enough in high school, or even in my first 2 years at junior college. My counselor said there was nothing the matter with my brain power. I just wasn't using my time right. It even took me a couple of extra summer sessions to make the grade and to pick up required botany and calculus. If I've got anything to say about going to a pharmacy school like this one, it's 2 words. Don't procrastinate. I spent my first 2 years glued to the books. I'll give you a quick rundown on the highlights of just one freshman week. After an 8 o'clock organic chemistry lecture, I end up with 5 pages of chemical formulas to make my very own. And still muttering them to myself while I take a coffee break. Forget chemistry for an hour and take histology lecture notes by flashlight while we see slides of cells and tissues. Same day, 6 o'clock. After a quick dinner in Millbury, start to study organic chemistry for the weekly quiz on Wednesday. Squeeze in a little micro in case there's a surprise quiz tomorrow. It's 9 o'clock and fatigue is setting in. Coffee break. That makes 3 gallons today by crude reckoning. Almost midnight. Try to study some more. Very sleepy. Bright and shining the next morning, microbiology lab. 2 hours on the care and feeding of your friendly microbes. And right after lunch, anatomy lecture. Diligently but vainly trying to copy those elaborate diagrams. Today, a cross-section of the midbrain, which sure didn't seem to have much to do with pharmacy until the prof explained we'd use it later when we studied effects of drugs on the brain. Then head for pharmacy class, where I had my chance at the blackboard. Pharmaceutical math may not be as pretty to look at as anatomy diagrams, but it's just as important. But fate catches up with us the next day, and there's a micro quiz, the one I studied for. Then we run a test on antibiotic sensitivity, a procedure used to establish the effectiveness of drugs against an organism. When the plate is removed from the incubator, we look for areas of growth inhibition, the clear areas. The cloudy areas show that the patient's infection is resistant to strep, pen, and tetracyclines. And so back to the fraternity house, and another night with chemistry and coffee. I don't know how much the coffee helped, but the studying sure did. The weekly chem quiz is always a tough one, because chemistry, I'm finding out, is absolutely basic to almost everything in pharmacy. Well, that's the highlights of one freshman week, and I'm beginning to see my way past the first year.
By the time we made it to the second year, physiology lab turned up some interesting stuff, like the influence of exercise, our own, on metabolism, oxygen consumption, blood pressure, and heart action. Preparation helps, as Tom says, but even with some solid beginnings, you work hard in pharmacy.
And I finally make it to the third year. The dispensing lab made me feel I was on my way to a profession. Even though very few prescriptions are compounded today, they must be formulated with great accuracy. We still compound the old way, and it's a useful skill. So are some of the new ways of compounding.
Even as a freshman, I felt I was on my way to a profession. Maybe because I'd decided on pharmacy when I was still in high school. I began to wonder, even then, what I'd do with all this education. Community pharmacy, research, teaching, hospital pharmacy, or this, pharmaceutical technology. Not all those doors are wide open to women. So Tom offered to give me a tour, an advanced look at what I might do as a junior and senior. I was amazed to find this right on campus. Not only theoretical, but real application. Compounding and manufacturing ointments and tablets for use in the university's hospitals and pharmacies. Even if I don't decide to go into technology, I could use experience like this.
I did a lot of thinking in my third year about where to use my education. The man I'd worked for in high school ran a fine pharmacy, and I know it can be done. But I kept thinking there might be something else I wanted to do. So I made an appointment with the director of the hospital pharmacy training program.
Well, Bill, my secretary said that you wanted to talk to me about the hospital pharmacy training program. Is that right?
That's right. I have some notes here, some questions I hope that you can answer for me, and things that I'm interested about hospital pharmacy.
Well, Bill, before you go on with your questions, I just wanted to ask you one question. I pulled your folder this morning just to find out a little something about you, and I find that you have quite an impressive scholarship record, and one that really would qualify you for the graduate program in pharmaceutical chemistry. And I just wondered if you'd given consideration to this as perhaps an area of interest for you.
Well, I've thought about it, but I'm not that interested in doing high-powered research work as a full-time profession, and I'm interested now in finding out something about hospital pharmacy.
Okay, Bill, I just wanted to check this with you. Go ahead now, and let's have your questions, and let's discuss them.
Well, I'm wondering, is there a need today for pharmacists that have been specifically trained for hospital pharmacy practice?
There are going to be many excellent opportunities for people with special training in hospital pharmacy. And I'm sure that those who have specialized training, who have the scientific background that people like yourself do, will find real good opportunities.
Dr. Brody, our education here is one that prepares us to exert some evaluation of drugs and drug control, is there any opportunity in hospital pharmacy practice to do some of this activity?
An individual has to be able to work with the medical staff, and this is purely on a scientific and a professional basis. These people will come into the pharmacy, they may call, or there may be other types of contact. And another place where they work with the medical staff is in the Pharmacy and Therapeutics Committee, which is a committee of the medical staff. And in addition, the nurses of the hospital come in for consultation and for information about drugs, and the interns and house staff of the hospital are constantly coming to the pharmacist for information, in which the pharmacist uses his education and training.
Another area I'm interested in is in the area of writing or doing literature search in the library. And is there any opportunity to write articles for a hospital pharmacy bulletin or any conferences that I might be able to participate in?
We publish regularly, as you probably know, a hospital pharmacy bulletin, and we will give you every opportunity to make contributions to that. And I personally would like to encourage you sometime during your training period to write at least one or maybe several papers that might be suitable for publication in one of the national pharmaceutical journals. I think you have the background to do this, and I'd like to encourage you to develop this kind of talent. Bill, I would just like to suggest to you that if you are interested in our hospital pharmacy training program, that you would stop by the dean's office and pick up one of these forms, which we require those that are interested to fill out. We will be making our appointments to the intern class probably in March, and we would like to have your declared intent on file at an early date. I certainly appreciate your coming in, Bill. It's been nice talking with you. And
thanks very much.
And if you have any additional questions, why, please feel free to come in and talk to me. Now, here are some things that I have marked some pages in there that I think maybe you'll be interested in reading in your spare time.
Okay, I think I'll go down.
I stopped in the dean's office to pick up the application blanks and then rushed home to tell my wife about the interview. My wife taught school until the baby came, but now I've got a lab assistant job. So today, we celebrated my paycheck and my decision by going shopping for some clothes for our son. Seems as though babies outgrow clothes before they wear them out.
Well, the colored jars have come back into my life. And I guess the real turning point in my pharmacy career was coming to work here part-time when I was a junior. Here I seem to get a chance every day to apply what I'm learning in school. For instance, today, just at closing time, a nurse came in. She had a list of supplies for the office, vaccines and injectable solutions. It just happens that last week we discussed similar products in biologics, so I could answer her questions on storage and expiration dates. I admit that sometimes it's impossible to come up with the right answer, but a good education sure helps to ask the right questions and to know where to find the answers. Like this doctor who had just opened an office in the neighborhood. He wanted to see a particular new product. I showed it to him, and we discussed the information available on contraindications and side effects. The techniques of pharmacy may be rather stable, but the products are constantly changing.
Not only are the products changing, with about 90% of the drugs in use today not even existing 10 years ago, but more is known about the different results using the same drugs. Our junior and senior courses in biopharmaceutics get into both general and specific physiological availability of drugs. And it's exactly this kind of professional education that makes our pharmacy school unique. Many important facts about proper drug administration are not readily available, but by the time we walk out clutching that PharmD, we know how to seek out those facts.
I've summarized the results of your lab experiment from last week on the board here. I've averaged actually the values for all students, and we have here the 50% remaining to be dissolved curves for product T and A. You note that there's a big difference here. T has a half time of about 20 minutes, A about 80 minutes. And of course this could have some important implications in the use of these two products.
Oh, do you mean something about the cumulative amount excreted?
That's right, Would you like to sketch this in for me? What do you think is going to happen here?
Well, in the first place we have to change our X.
Okay, let me erase this for you.
Well, I think that we should see more of T coming out.
One way a practicing pharmacist keeps up is by reading professional journals. A good reason, among lots of others, for our junior and senior journal clubs. My job this week, for a meeting on Friday, was to dig up everything I could on the metabolism of a new anti-cancer drug.
By the time I was a junior, I began to see some daylight, what 6 years in a PharmD might add up to. One morning, Phil came in with an idea.
She didn't know what kind of...
Hi, Tom, Ken.
How's it going?
Phil, how's it going? Oh, all righty. I just came from biopharmaceutics class where the professor brought up a new concept in pharmacy, the practicing clinical pharmacologist.
That's quite a mouthful.
Yeah, it is. It was, he theorized that in the future pharmacists may get together, 2 or 3, and set up a separate corporation with a separate office out of the pharmacy where they would collect data and drug information and be consultants to physicians or dentists or whoever needed some information on new drugs.
Well, you know, we do this right now in the pharmacy, Phil. I mean, especially for the general public, we try to help them out quite a bit. That's true, because a lot of times the first one that comes in contact with the mother who comes in with her child.
Most of the time.
And many times she comes to you, and it's your opportunity and your duty to tell her whether you can help her, whether you should send her to a physician.
That's one of the main things, is to know when they should be referred to a physician. And, you know,
we have to be aware of the symptoms and things. This is why I think our background in pathology and pharmacology is particularly important, because acting as drug consultants, not only the physician and the public, we have to have an awareness of disease and the use of the drugs.
Well, I think with the amount of pharmaceutical chemistry we've taken, we're in a position to make evaluations on drugs and converse with the physician and help him out on decisions between different dosage forms.
Right. This is just what I say in this new concept. We can put all of this to complete use, because gathering data and evaluating is where we'll use all of this to a greater extent than we do today.
The thing that I wonder about sometimes is with the fantastic amount of material coming out. I know in the journal club we have 15, 20 people each covering just 2 journals a week. Yeah. And just to discuss this in 1 week, it's impossible. And then it takes another like this.
This is just the point I'm making, that it's hard for pharmacists who are constantly around drugs to keep up with this. What about the physician who has his clinical practice to keep up with, to keep up on the new drug information? That's why I say it's a necessity for a pharmacist to expand his field.
Yeah, you can set up your own filing system to keep track on really be the only way you could keep up on the literature. Well, not only literature for the physician, but you could set up an information center for the public on things like diabetes and things like that.
Yes, I think it's being done now. Actually, the APHA just set up a study on this, and the pharmacist does access the health information center.
Well, actually, it's a great opportunity, because of the amount of people you have coming out of your store every day.
I think we'll have to expand this function in the future, actually.
Yeah, they can use, well, right now, like I said, they have these information racks with the various pamphlets. And, well, you know, another possibility would be, you know, this would be good for a few pharmacists, but the pharmacists in the pharmacy itself would be able to work some type of a situation where they did dosage form evaluation, you know, on the tableting and that type of thing.
Certainly something to think about for the future, but I got to get going.
Well, it was a great idea, but maybe not for next year or the year after that. But who knows? A few more years of a few hundred more PharmDs coming out of this building, and the practicing clinical pharmacologist may be part of the community health team, just the way he's already part of a lot of hospital health teams.
One thing you can say about teams is that they function all over the place at our annual picnic. No classes today, and everybody turns out. I guess you could say that the picnic is a student tradition, even if the faculty does all the cooking. It started as a sort of spontaneous ditch day, and then the faculty decided to make it official. We eat and talk and eat some more and play games or watch.
But the next day, business as usual in the hospital pharmacy, where I seem to spend most of my time since I decided to make this my career. Today I filled inpatient prescriptions under the watchful eye of a senior pharmacist. After he okays what I've done, I load the floor cart.
My day of reckoning has come, and parking is the worst I can remember. But I find a place, and wonder if I really do know everything I think I do about bugs and worms and parasites and fungi. The parasitology practicum is the last big exam before commencement, and if you haven't got it cold, there's no use guessing. Every 90 seconds, bing bong, and you move on. Teased preparation of fungus grown from gastric washings. Fungus grow white and somewhat moist. Give genus and spore type. What medication is useful to control this fungus? There are 36 stops on this musical chair route. 3 of them rest stops, and the rest like this. Arthropod known as an important cause of necrotic arachnidism. Give genus and name, and recommend therapy for local effects of its bite. Oh, well, onward. 4 years don't last forever, although sometimes it seems that way. They end here on the roof of Millbury Union, with banners and flags and speeches and family and friends. Bill's friend from high school days always said that he'd close up the day we graduated and come to commencement. And he did. So did lots of other people who were proud of us, and of all the other men and women getting health science degrees from the San Francisco campus. But the word commencement doesn't mean the end. Today we begin.